Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, scripters over here, and welcome back to another episode of this tutorial series making you a new Roblox scripter fledgling. Last episode we introduced the server-client relationship and the replicated first and replicated storage services. In this episode we're going to talk about local scripts and ServerScriptService and ServerStorage services. Now we mentioned how if we want to run tasks on the client's device in the last episode we use a local script. This begs the question, what are local scripts? They're just like the server script we created in the first episode in the sense that you can type in commands inside of them in the Roblox Lua language. Local scripts, however, only run on the client and must be placed in specific locations in order to run. Those locations include the replicated first service, as well as the starter GUI service, and the player instances and their characters. So whenever a player joins, if you place a local script inside of under the player as a child of the player or as a child of their character, the code will run. You can't see any players inside the player service, but if you want to add local scripts as soon as they join, you can try adding the local script as the child of these two folders. So starter character scripts and starter player scripts folders, if you place a local script or anything inside of them for that matter, the things will be replicated or duplicated and placed inside the player's character or the player's player when they join. So this is where another place where local scripts can also run. Inside the player or under the player or as a child of the player or as a child of the character. Now, if a local script was placed anywhere else, it would not run. Now, for example, let's create a local script inside of the workspace. So using the plus button, so let's click on the plus button, type in local script, click on local script, and that's how we create a local script. And as you can see, a new tab opened where we can type in code in the Roblox Lua language. And for example, let's have the code inside of it. Let's command the computer to print out I am running as soon as the script runs. So if we play the game, we will notice, since the local script is placed in an invalid location, it's placed in the workspace, it's not placed in the replicated first storage service, it's not placed in the starter GUI service, it's not placed in one of these two folders, right? As you can see, nothing was printed out in the output interface. This is because the local script was placed in the workspace, an invalid running location, let's say that. Now let's say we place the local script in the replicated first service. Let's see what happens now. Now, we will notice how I am running is actually printed out. Alright? Now, something you want to know is that local scripts can be placed in invalid locations and then reparented or placed inside of another thing or inside of the player's character in a valid location while the game is running, and that will make whatever code is inside the local script run at that time, right? So whenever you move this local script, let's say it's placed in the workspace, and then the player joins the game, and let's wait, for example, we tell the computer, let's wait 10 seconds, and then move this local script to the player's character, all right? So for example, let's assume this is the player's character. Let's move it over here, and we will notice how the code at that time will actually run. So this is something like, for example, if you have a local script that controls the movement of a vehicle, for example, all right? You can place it inside of the vehicle, and then as soon as the player joins or rides the vehicle, you can move the local script inside of the player character, or inside of the player, or in a valid location, basically. So this is a possible way to make local scripts run at a certain point of time you want them to run it. So you don't want them to run before that time. You want them to run as soon as that thing happens. So let's say, for example, you have the local script rented to workspace, and let's use the server script, reference that local script. So how do we reference it? We create a variable using local. Let's name that variable local script, all right? And let's assign it to the local script inside of workspace. So we have to call its ancestry. So game.workspace or a better method is game get service workspace. We talked a bit about this in a previous video. Calling a service using the get service method is better than using just dot workspace. Game get service dot local script, and now we have the local script assigned to a variable. And let's also reference the player's service, so PLS, because we want to use one of its events to tell the computer when a player joins. We want you to add this local script to the player's character. So PLS, local PLS, is equal to game get service players. That's the player's service. And now let's use the event PLS dot player added. So whenever a player is added to the game, we want to connect this event to a function. Right? We can type in the function inside of the event, or we can do as we did in a previous video. We can create a function. Let's call it local function player added, and it will give us as input the player that joins the game. So we have to write in the input, the type of the input variable, which is a player class of the player class. And let's remove this function. We'll talk more about writing the functions inside of the connect, right, or inside of any function that requires a function as an input. We can actually instantiate or start the function inside of the parentheses. But let's use the methods we already learned. So we're going to create a function called player added, place player as input, since the player added event places any player that joins as input to the function it connects to. So player added player. And then we want to take the local script and set its parent to the player's character. Dot character. And let's wait. Before that, let's tell the computer to wait. Task using the task.wait function. We can also use the wait function, but task.wait is more efficient and more precise. So task.wait, let's say after 10 seconds. We're telling the computer wait 10 seconds and then place the local script as a child of the player's character. So local script.parent is equal to player.character. So now if we connect this function to player added and we play the game, so you will notice that the local script won't run as soon as we start the game because it's placed in an invalid location. But what we're doing in the function is we're telling the computer to wait 10 seconds and then place the local script in a valid location in the client. So the local script is then placed in the player's character, and that's a valid location where local scripts can run, as we talked about previously. So now if we play the game, the computer will wait 10 seconds. Nothing will print out in the output interface, as you can see over here. Right? I am running is not printing out. But after, let's wait 10 seconds, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, almost 10. There, 10. And as you can see, the local script now is a child of the player's character. There you go. This is the local script. If we open it, we can see I am running. It says print, it tells the computer print I am running. And as you can see, I am running is printed out in the output interface. All right. So this is all we need to know about local scripts. They're just like server scripts, all right? They can run code or commands, but they have to be placed in valid locations. And another thing about local scripts is that they only run on the client. So whatever happens on the client is not replicated to the server, all right? You can basically make the player's computer do stuff that are not replicated to other players or to the server that connects to other players. So whatever happens in the local script, other players cannot see that because it's not replicated to the server. If you want to, ask more questions about that, feel free to comment in the comment section. Now let's move to the ServerScript service. The ServerScript service is just a storage service used to store service scripts specifically. It is just a place designated for server scripts. Placing them in a specific spot helps organize your game and makes it easy to find a server script you're looking for. Clients also cannot see whatever is inside a server script placed inside of the server script service. This makes it harder for them to understand your code and try to exploit it, making it a good practice to place your server scripts in the server script service. The last service we want to talk about is the server storage service. Like the replicated storage service we already talked about, it is a storage service used to store things like models, for example. The difference is that whatever you store in the server storage can only be accessed by the server, meaning the client cannot access it. So any exploiter trying to access things in the game, they can't access anything placed in the server storage, alright? This is useful to store certain assets you don't want the client to copy easily. Alright, in the next episode, we'll talk more about the starter GUI and starter pack and starter player services. I hope you enjoyed this learning experience, and if you want to stop here, just save your progress by pressing File, Save to File, and then name the file whatever you want and save it wherever you wish. Be sure to support the channel by giving it a thumbs up and subscribing. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions or inquiries, feel free to ask in the comments section.